I was born in a small, poor village far from the city. Our house was old, with a leaking roof and cold floors in winter. When it rained, water came through the ceiling, and my mother put old pots under the drops. I grew up with very little, but even as a small girl, I felt a strong fire inside me. I looked at the sky at night, watched the stars, and told myself that one day I would reach a life where I didn't worry about money, cold, or hunger. I didn't know how, but I believed it was possible. The truth is, our family struggled a lot. We didn't always have enough food. Sometimes my father brought home bread and potatoes, and that was all we had for 2 days. My brother and I shared clothes, and my mother sewed catches on everything. But even in the hardest moments, my parents tried to smile. They always said, "Life is difficult now, but it can change." Hard work helps. Their strength became the first lesson of my life. School was not just a place to study for me. It was my escape from the problems at home. I loved sitting in the classroom, holding a pencil, and learning new things. I felt free when I read books. My clothes were simple, and kids sometimes laughed at me, but I focused on learning. Books became my best friends. Every page made me believe more and more that the world outside my village was big and full of opportunities. When I turned 10, my secret dream became clear. I wanted to live in the city. I wanted to work in a beautiful office with computers, clean floors, and people who dressed nicely. I imagined myself walking with confidence, earning my own money, and helping my parents. I didn't tell anyone this dream at first. It felt too big for a girl who barely had good shoes. But it lived inside me like a quiet fire. At 12 years old, I started helping my mother at the local factory after school. I cleaned tables, packed products, and carried small boxes. The work was hard for a child, but I felt proud. Every coin I earned went to buy food or school notebooks. Helping my family taught me responsibility early. I understood that if I wanted a better life, I needed to work for it, step by step. Sometimes children at school said mean things about my family. They asked why my clothes looked old or why I didn't buy new shoes. Their words hurt deeply. But instead of breaking me, the pain pushed me forward. I promised myself that one day I would stand in front of them as a successful woman, not a poor girl. When I finished school, I knew I could not stay in the village. There were no opportunities. So I packed my small bag, hugged my parents, and took the bus to the city. My parents had tears in their eyes, but they also looked proud. They told me to be brave, work hard, and never give up. Their support stayed with me every day. The city was bigger and louder than I imagined. Cars, lights, tall buildings, everything felt new and frightening. I rented a very small room with cracked walls and an old mattress. But even with little money, I felt a new kind of freedom. This was my chance to build a new life. My first job was washing dishes in a cafe. The work was tiring and the pay was small. My hands were always wet and cold. But I smiled, stayed positive, and did my job well. I understood that even this small job was a step forward. Every evening I walked home tired but proud. After work, I studied English on my phone. I had no teacher, no money for classes, and no books. But I had a dream. I watched videos, repeated sentences, and wrote down new words in a cheap notebook. Some nights I fell asleep while studying, but I refused to quit. I knew English could open new doors for me. One afternoon, a customer asked for help reading an English email. Nobody in the cafe understood it, except me. I translated it for her, and she looked shocked. She said, "Your English is impressive. We need someone like you in our office." For the first time, I felt that my hard work was seen. I went to the interview nervous and shaking. My clothes were simple, and I worried they would not choose me. But they listened to my answers, asked about my English, and looked at my motivation. 2 days later, I received a call. "Congratulations, you have the job." I cried from happiness. It was the first real step toward my dream. Working in an office felt like entering another universe. The computers, the phones, the people, everything felt modern and exciting. I was quiet at first, learning how everything worked. But every day I improved. I asked questions, watched how others worked, and tried to learn as much as possible. Slowly, I became more confident. I learned how to organize files, write formal emails, talk professionally, and support the team. My coworkers started trusting me. For the first time, I felt that I belonged in a place full of possibility. After a year, a small startup opened in the same building. They needed someone energetic and ready to grow. One of my coworkers recommended me. The startup team was young, creative, and full of big dreams. I felt excited just being around them. I knew I wanted to be part of something new. In the startup, we worked day and night. There were many tasks and very few people. I did everything I could, answered emails, prepared documents, planned meetings, and talked to clients. I learned faster than ever. I felt like I was running toward a new life. One evening, my boss called me into his office. He said, "You have become the heart of this team. We want you to be our manager." I felt shocked. Me? A manager? But I accepted. It was a turning point. I realized that hard work truly can change someone's destiny. Being a manager was not easy. People came to me with problems. I had to make decisions, solve conflicts, and stay calm even when I felt stressed. But every challenge made me stronger. I started to believe in myself more. When I received my first good salary, I sat on my bed and cried. Not from sadness, but from the feeling that my life was finally moving forward. I bought fresh food, warm clothes, and saved a little money every month. For the first time, I felt stable and safe. The first thing I did with my savings was help my parents. I visited them, brought bags of food, and gave them warm blankets and clothes. Later, I moved them to the city so they could live in a comfortable apartment. Seeing their smiles was worth everything. After 2 years of saving, I bought my first small apartment. It was simple, but it was mine. I painted the walls white, bought used furniture, and made it cozy. Every time I turned the key in the door, I felt proud. I had created something with my own hands. The startup grew, and soon I had my own team of people working under my direction. I tried to be a kind and understanding leader. I remembered how it felt to be new and confused. I wanted my team to feel supported and inspired. One night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window and remembered my secret childhood dream to create something big, something that would change my life and help others. The dream came back stronger than ever. I decided to start planning my own business. For months, I worked during the day and planned my business at night. I wrote ideas, created plans, and searched for people who believed in me. Finally, I opened my own small company. It was scary, but also exciting. I felt like I was jumping into a new world again. The first months were difficult. We had few clients, and I worried every day. But I didn't give up. I believed in my vision. I talked to people, improved our services, and stayed patient. Slowly, step by step, the company grew. Then one morning, we received a huge order from a big client. It changed everything. More clients came. Our reputation grew. I hired more people who needed jobs and believed in our mission. My company finally became stable and successful. When I had enough money and stability, I started helping young women from poor families, girls like I once was. I created free courses, offered training, and gave them support. I wanted to show them that success does not depend on where you start, but on how much you believe in yourself. Sometimes I sit in my office, look at the tall buildings, and remember the little girl I used to be. A girl with old shoes, patched clothes, and empty pockets, but a big heart and a strong dream. She never gave up. She led me here. People often ask me how I achieved success. I always tell them, I worked hard, I learned every day, and I never stopped believing in my dream, even when life was difficult. I tell them that every big journey begins with a single small step. And I am proof that a small step can lead to a completely new world. Today, I live a life I once only imagined. I run a successful company, support my parents, help young women, and wake up every morning with gratitude. My life is full, warm, and meaningful. But I never forget my past. It makes me stronger. It reminds me to stay humble. And it tells me every day that dreams can become real when you don't give up. This is my story, a story of a poor girl who turned her life into something beautiful.